Welcome to this session, a leader's guide to high-performance organizations. I'm Matthias Patzak. I'm German, based out of Munich, Germany. I'm an executive in residence with AWS. Executive in residence, we are a global team out of former customer executives who have led transformation themselves. We talk with customers about technology sometimes, but most of the time we talk about people, process, and technology. And for probably 10, 15, 20 years, organizations want to know how to become more agile or how to become more efficient. Actually, what do these organizations then do? Sometimes a leader photocopies someone else's organization who is familiar with the Spotify model. A few. Actually, I like it a lot. I was CTO of AutoScout24 in 2014 when the Spotify model was released. It helped me to improve my organization, but you should not just photocopy someone else's organization. What other people do, on a plane back from a conference or reInvent, they buy a book, they read it, and on the next day they ask the organization to implement what's on the book. Or they hire one of the big 5 consultancy, put in a lot of money to A, ask them to implement the Spotify model, or B, implement what have they written in a book. But actually, this is not how it works. And the first mistake that some organizations do is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution, no one-size-fits-all operating model for an organization. Actually, in different areas of your business, in different areas of your organization, you want to apply different operating models. So for example, in an area where you need high predictability, you would provide low autonomy to the people. So this chart was created by a colleague of mine, the former CIO of McDonald's, and he said, Matthias, if McDonald's prepares fries in Mumbai and in Munich, they need to look like the same. So you provide, in this business process, little autonomy to the people in the team. While if you execute an implementation of an ERP project or you want to reinvent retail as a strategic project, the outcome is unpredictable. So you need to provide more autonomy to the people acting in this project. And this is why there are at least 2 different areas in your business. There's one where you have low variation, where you provide less autonomy, and this is where you want to optimize cost. This is where you want to reduce variation. This is where you use utility services like the AWS services. In other areas of your business, where innovation happens, where you create custom-built solutions, you also want to reduce cost there, but they reduce cost of learning because you want to experiment and you want to innovate. The main KPI here is speed. And this session is about how to become a high-performance organization. And our core beliefs in regards of a high-performance organization is A, agility. Being able to respond to change is the only competitive advantage. Second, your organization exists to deliver an outcome, not just output. And third, your organization has no end state. And this is why I like to quote Mike Cohn here. It doesn't matter how good you are today. If you're not better next month, you're not longer agile. From our perspective, when we talk to customers, a modern organization has 6 characteristics. First, being highly aligned. Second, being loosely coupled or providing local autonomy. Third, you focus on outcome, delivering business value and innovation to your customers. 4, being right-sized. At Amazon, we talk about 2 pizza teams. Nevertheless, being well-controlled and long-lived. So let's talk about being highly aligned. This slide actually is out of the original Spotify model presentation. And from my perspective, it was an important slide in realizing an important mental model in regards of operating models. So usually what the Agile community did for the last 20, 25, 30 years was we increased autonomy of our teams, because with less coupling, more autonomy, you're optimizing for speed. But if you have a lot of autonomy in your organization and little alignment, everyone is acting fast, but in any direction. This is not what you want. If you have a lot of alignment, but you provide little autonomy, everyone is acting in the right direction, but without any speed. What we want to create as leader in an organization is an environment where you're loosely coupled, but nevertheless, all of your teams, all of your forces act like a vector in the same direction. And in such an environment, what does not longer work is top-down orders. Because in strategy execution by top-down orders, you face three important gaps. The first one, the people, the leaders in an organization that create a strategy, they believe everyone else in an organization knows all the same thing that they know. Actually, this is not true. This is the knowledge gap. Then we have an alignment gap. You can try to describe a strategy as well as you could, but it's really hard to align everyone on this strategy. And then it always comes differently than you think it might happen. And this is the effect gaps. And if you want to have a highly aligned organization, modern organizations apply a concept that is called the commander's intent. So you're not providing a plan, and you're not asking people to execute against the plan. But again, instead, you provide your intent. To close the knowledge gap, you clearly communicate the what you want them to achieve and the why. And the why is most important. Then you brief your teams on this intent. What is the objective? What are the resources? What is the environment? And what are the constraints? Then they are making the plan, and then you do a back briefing. So your teams tell you how they understood your briefing and how they are going to execute it. And then while they execute, you provide them freedom to adjust their actions, because it's not about the actions, it's about achieving the outcome. In such an environment, you need guiding principles. At Amazon, we are a principle-driven organization. But you can also have very specific leadership principles that should drive actions in a certain environment. At AutoScout in 2014, we did a modernization project. So we had a monolith, we had our own data centers based on ASP.NET and Microsoft technologies on a large Oracle cluster. But we decided we want to modernize. And so we modernized our tech stack to being cloud native on AWS, microservices, and Scala. The only decision I regret, we can discuss this later over coffee. And so it was a huge change. And we created, driven by the former chief architect of my organization, Christian Deger, principles. And so we said, we want to apply, you build it, you run it. So we created this leadership principle. We also said, please, engineers in this organization, please be bold. Go into production early, value monitoring over tests. So for sure, we had a CI/CD pipeline with automated testing in it, but monitoring is the new testing. We established fail fast, but recover and learn, and optimize for mean time to recover, not mean time between failures. This was a great fit at this point in time for my organization. It might not be a fit for your organization, but you can drive behaviors by describing principles. Whatever you do in creating alignment, don't boil the ocean. We recommend that you become ready by starting and not start when you're ready. What I observe in many customer organizations I work with, that they try to create alignment by more communication, more involvement of the people. And this is a measure that creates more alignment but makes you slow. Actually, at Amazon, We believe communication is a sign of dysfunction because it means people aren't working together in a close, organic way. And at Amazon, we should be trying to figure out a way for teams to communicate less with each other, not more. Or actually communicate about what matters and not what everyone believes he could contribute to. Let's talk about local autonomy or being loosely coupled. Actually, there are hundreds or thousands of talks in the Agile community about being loosely coupled and autonomous. So I want to skip this part. And maybe this is then advanced or modern Agile. And I want to talk about how much is too much autonomy. This is a quote from Gregor Hoppe. He was a team member of my team. And he said, everyone doing what they think is best isn't autonomy, that's anarchy. So, and what do I mean with this? So there's a correlation in organization between autonomy and performance. If you provide more autonomy to your teams, the performance of the teams is going to increase. And with the increased autonomy and performance of teams, the performance of the organization is going to increase as well. But just until a certain point in time. If you further increase the autonomy of the teams, the performance of the overall organization is going to decline. And the performance of the teams a little bit later as well. For example, if you allow each of your software development teams to decide on their own technology stack, decide on the programming language of this team. Awesome for the developers in this team, a nightmare for the overall organization on the midterm. So as a leader, as an organization, it's important that you as a development community in an organization find the sweet spot between local autonomy and organizational performance. And this is why I try to avoid to use the word autonomy at all when I talk to customers. I talk about coupling, loosely coupling, being less coupled. And when you want to reduce the coupling in your organization, which is a very important measure, treat dependencies as a defect. And this is why Jeff Bezos said we should try to communicate less with each other, because every communication is as well a dependency. So we know how to reduce technical dependencies. And I don't know how many talks we have about microservices at re:Invent this year, but actually this is the way to go. If you want to decouple your architecture, you introduce a microservice or a modular monolith. But I want to talk about how to reuse organizational dependencies. So in my role, I'm a sparring partner for executives. And sometimes I also do reviews of the organization. And one of my core beliefs is that the most important part, the most important cell of an organization is the team. So I like to start these reviews in teams. And then I also review their Scrum, Kanban, boards, however they organize the work. And each board is different, but basically they look like this. You have a backlog column or a to-do column, you have a next column, an in-development column, a waiting column, and done. And I do this review because I want to understand what is the time to market in this organization. And if you would ask the engineering manager of this team or a developer, they would say, our time to market is 2 weeks because we run in 2-week sprints. And then I ask, okay, what does done mean in your organization? And then I ask, okay, done means your user is using your software? Sometimes the answer is, no, it's not. Done means it works on my machine. But then we have to integrate it into the testing environment. But this happens just once a quarter. So now time to market is 10 weeks. Then I ask, what does integration mean? Is it then being used by the user? No. Then business needs to accept it. Happens once a quarter. But then users are using it? No, not yet, because then our supplier needs to release it into production. And what started as a 2-week sprint, very proud software development teams, is now a time to market of 26 weeks. But it's getting even worse, because then I ask about this backlog column. Where does the ideas come from? And then the story is like this. Okay, our salespersons, our salespeople, they send us requests. We have a backlog out of 3,000 requests. And then, so because it's 3,000 requests, someone needs to prioritize it. So we have a prioritization step. Now we have a time to market of 30 weeks. Because not all of them are very well written, you wait for clarification. Then, for the prioritized items, we need to write a business concept. We do not longer write a business plan because business plans are so old school, so we write business concepts. But again, we need to clarify some data, some assumptions. We're going to wait. Time to market is now 42 weeks. For all of the business concepts that were approved, we need to define a budget. It takes some time. And then our solution architects going to write the software design and software architecture for the solution so that the developers in the team know what to do. 49 weeks from idea to impact. And this is why agile software development is not business agility. From our perspective, this is waterfall agile certified. And I encourage everyone to adopt agile in software development, but I also encourage everyone to apply agile for the rest of the process. And it's easy to reduce this time to market from 49 weeks to, we will see where we end. So, for example, you could just remove certain steps in the process. So, why wait for approval for the business concept? Why wait for budgeting? Why wait for an IT concept? So you could just do budgeting differently, not budget every single initiative, every single project, but you could do capacity-based budgeting. A business owner, domain owner has certain capacity, and this is a budget. And inside of this capacity, this person can decide what is the most important story we want to develop. Or IT concept, from my perspective, the developers in a team, they should be capable that they could design their software development design themselves. Or, very easy, you could just increase the frequency of steps in your process. Prioritization, not once a quarter, but once a month. Integration, weekly. Acceptance test and release, monthly. Or, you automate steps, and actually, every single step in your development lifecycle after software development should be fully automated. At AutoScout, we treated every single manual change to production as an incident. And so we were down to 6 weeks. From idea to impact. And this did not needed a reorganization. It was just working on the process. So let's talk about focus on outcomes. A lot of organizations reduce dependencies in the organization. They optimize for flow. They're finally being able to deliver features in 6 weeks and not 49 weeks. But they become a feature factory. They're able to deliver features very fast. They're optimizing for flow, but they're not changing business KPIs. And this is why we recommend as an organization, you should really focus on changing outcome. And this is why it's important, what is your definition of done? And from my perspective, done does not mean works on my machine. Done means someone's need was met, and someone should be your customer. And it's totally okay that you have some KPIs and some measures in your organization as a fitness function so that you understand how fit are you. But don't focus on story points completed, requirements developed, and test script completed. These are metrics that help you to understand how fit you are, but this is not the most important metric. If you want to optimize for delivering outcome to your customers, You need to work backwards from your customer needs. And this is how Amazon innovates. We always work backwards from needs and problems of our customers. And you can't innovate inside a meeting room. If you want to innovate, if you want to deliver, I recommend that you get outside of your office building, observe, visit your customer, your user in the natural environment, observe how they use your product, identify their needs, their problems, and then try to fix the problems. And there is uncertainty involved. And this is why I recommend research and development thinking in your software development process. Some organizations treat software like a hardware. They design it, they build it, they ship it. That's it. But it's software. And this is why I recommend hypothesis-driven development. There is a great blog post by ThoughtWorks about it. And actually, as an organization, you should describe every story like this. We believe this capability, this feature, will result in this outcome. For example, in an e-commerce shop, we believe this new payment method will result in higher Net Promoter Score. Or, maybe even better as an outcome, higher conversion rate or more revenue. But the most important aspect is the third line. We will know we have succeeded when we see a measurable signal. So as a product owner, you need to define beforehand what is the KPI you want to change and what is the signal that you want to see that you believe this implementation was a success. Most of the time, if you ship a feature and you measure the impact via A/B testing, you won't see any signal. And this is totally fine. The signal then is you need to improve. You need to build, measure, and learn. And I do believe that we should measure certain KPIs, certain productivity KPIs in a software development organizations. And I've written also a blog post about this, but from my perspective, these are the core performance indicators of a software development organization. The most important one is business value delivered. So on a team level, for every release, measure via A/B testing for every feature, does this feature changes a business KPI? And then as an engineering manager, as a product owner, maintain an achievement log so that you are able to prove to your business stakeholder, to business, to whomever, what are the actual achievements. You should measure throughput and cycle time in your organization, quality, probably 20, 30 different metrics, functional, non-functional, security metrics. I talked about that no organization has an end state, and you should always be agile and adopt. So you need to measure the motivation and the engagement level of the people in your organization so that you know when you can do more changes or less changes. And we should have an understanding of cost. But from my perspective, being innovative and deliver business value is much more important than having a focus on cost. So let's talk about being right-sized. And right-sized is not just about size of teams, size of organizations. Actually, it's more about having the right size, but also having the right people, the right culture, and the right skills. So about right-sized. At Amazon, we say no team should be larger than it could be fed with 2 American-sized pizzas. So it's not clearly defined. And the reason behind is because in this example, we have 8 people on a team, but these 8 people, they have to maintain 28 communication channels, 28 relationships. Let's increase this number. Now 12 people. 12 people on a team have to maintain 66 communication channels, 66 relationships. And there are certain numbers in organization, in communities that define the right size of this group. And this is called Dunbar numbers. So 5, 15, 150, and 1,500 are in population groups on teams, certain numbers when relationship breaks, and you have a different type of relationship in this organization. So you should be mindful of this type of numbers in your organizations. So let's talk about being and having the right skills. We believe powerful teams should be cross-functionals with a cross-functional team set. And this is something this won't change with agents and agentic AI. It's the other way around. We will see, as individual contributors in team use agents, they will become even more cross-functional and more T-shaped. It's important that you have subject matter experts, that you have a healthy mix of junior and senior people in your teams, and it's important that you invest in reskilling, upskilling, and training. And so there is not the single right number from a sizing perspective, but we believe that a team should be small enough so that the person in the team could build personal trust, make decisions quickly, and be cohesive as a team, but also large enough to deliver outcome, be independent from others, and have actually the knowledge, the cross-functional knowledge in a team to being able to deliver. And size of teams might change. This slide might be true and might be wrong. It totally depends on the context of organization. But in the future, software development teams could look differently. So in this example, maybe you just have one product manager, one design lead, and 1 to 2 software developers. But each of the person in the teams uses several agents, and so you might have 5 to 10 agents. Personally, I believe it will look differently. This slide assumes that just the software developers in the team will use agent and generative AI, so just the developers are being more efficient and not the designer and the product manager. And so I believe the actual setup, the actual number of people in a team will stay very similar to what we see right now, but every person, every role in a team is going to be more efficient. From a technical perspective, the number of agents you can delegate work to is, from a technical point of view, unlimited, maybe just limited by cost. What really limits the number of agents a person can delegate to is the mental load that it takes when you try to delegate work to another person. So my mental model or my analogy for an agent is that you can get a highly trained, highly intelligent, well-educated college graduate, and you can delegate to them. So they work a lot, day and night, but they don't have experience. So you need to know how to delegate. Another example of how a team could be is this example. Data is becoming more and more important. What we see as an issue with central data lakes is very often missing ownership. And this is one of the core concepts behind data mesh, where the teams that create transactional data also takes ownership about this data in the context of making this data available as a data product for analytical and AI and ML uses. And so teams might also look like having one product manager, one business analyst and a design lead, a number of software developers, in this example also just 2 software developers, but 2 to 3 data engineers, 1 to 2 data scientists, and in this model also 1 DevOps engineer. In my organization at AutoScout, we had a you build it, you run it model, so the software developers also ran their code. And again, a number of agents. And agents will be specialized by role, product management agent, design agent, software development agent, and they will be specialized on the business domain of the team. because an agent needs to understand the software architecture and the business domain where it's being engaged. And this will be part of the knowledge that you as a software development team provides to your specific agents. Why do cars have brakes? In a silent session, hard to ask. But how would you drive a car that hasn't any brake? Very slowly. You would drive faster, it's okay. And the same is true with organizations. So we said we are optimizing for high performance organization. We optimize for speed. We reduce coupling. But you need to be well controlled even as a loosely coupled organization. Loosely coupled in the sense that you need to have sensors that realize when something is going to happen that is not okay. And then you need to react very quickly as an organization. With traditional operating models and traditional data centers, you had to decide if you want to be fast or secure. And startups, and I have a startup and scale-up background, they might decide, okay, we optimize more for being fast than being secure, while regulated industries optimize more for being secure while being fast. With modern operating models and cloud technologies, you can be fast and secure, but just as long as you provide the right measures. Actually, what you want to create in your organization isn't set up like this. You want to have independent teams, cross-functional, very capable, that take risks. And they take risks because they know they're on a rope. So the blast radius of a wrong decision in your architecture, in your infrastructure, is limited. And this is the role of platforms in organization. For having a high velocity but well-controlled organizational setup, our recommendation is that you automate everything. So you should automate definitely your test and release processes and have a proper CI/CD pipeline. You should automate your infrastructure. This will also help you so that you can apply agents in your infrastructure. You should automate all of your security measures. This is one of the reasons why we just launched the Frontier Security Agents. And monitoring is the new testing. Observability is getting more important than ever. You need to have a real-time understanding of your infrastructure and your agents. And with one of the Frontier agents, the incident agent, with proper monitoring in place, with infrastructure as a code, these Frontier agents can react to an incident on your behalf. And who builds these measures? Who automates everything? Actually, this is the purpose of platforms in organization. In every organization, you want to have loosely coupled teams that share nothing. And they're standing on the shoulders of strong platforms. Platforms that provide tooling, service, training, and consulting so that the software and product development teams can be fast. And what we see in organizations are three different types of platforms. One is the most common one, an infrastructure platform, software developer experience platform, developer happiness platform, however you want to call them. So they provide tooling and infrastructure that the software developers can be simple, efficient, and stress-free. Data platforms, in the sense of a data mesh, support federated data teams, software development teams that take ownership for the data product to reduce the cognitive load of providing these data platforms, these data products, to the rest of the organization. Then, most of the organizations have complex business systems where a lot of teams have dependencies to. And to manage these dependencies, and the challenge of prioritizing all requests, usually these complex business systems are also part of a business platform. What's going to change with agent, and especially with the new frontier incident DevOps agent, is how we handle on-call and how we handle incidents. So traditional on-call looks like this. A human gets paged, a human investigates, and a human fixes something. When you have agents on call, it looks differently. Because your AI agent gets alerted first. The AI agent investigates, but a human reviews and decides. And then your AI agent can execute pre-approved fixes, or the human intervenes. But actually shows right now this just works for certain types of incidents. So for the time being, agents will be able to work on your priority 4, priority 5 incidents, probably independently. Priority 2 and priority 3 incidents, there will be a human in the loop, and priority 1 incidents will always and still be managed by humans. Maybe with support of agents to investigate and analyze, but this is still the core domain of humans. So let's talk about being long-lived. So we invested a lot in this organization, being highly aligned, being well controlled, loosely coupled. We invested in reskilling and upskilling. And then still some organizations work in a project-based approach, in an approach where they continuously change the teams. And with every change in a team, you disrupt this team. And this is why disbanding high-performing teams is worse than vandalism, is corporate psychopathy. So we believe having stable teams is very, very important for the performance of your organization. And why is this? Businesses are complex. Business processes are complex. Business logic is complex. So the people on a team, the product owner, the QA engineers, the software developers, it takes them a long time to understand the business domain. And if you change the setup of a team, you lose this knowledge. And the same is true for the infrastructure part, the software development part, the security part, so the technical domain of this team. Disrupting a team reduces the performance of your organization. So we're coming to an end. These are the characteristics of a modern organization. Try to become highly aligned, but loosely coupled. Focus on outcomes in your organization. Try to always be right-sized, but also well-controlled. And try to minimize changing your teams. If you want to learn more about how to set up high-performance organizations, these are the books that the people on my team authored. My book is All Hands on Tech. I have 5 pieces of them here as a giveaway if you want to have them. If you want to have questions, if you want to discuss, feel free to come to me here at the front after the talk. Thank you very much.